Hello friends, I am Chevee. Welcome to my shed. How are you today? How's life in your world? How's things where you are? I hope it's all good and great and wonderful. I got to playtest the utilities project last night and it went great. I said yesterday that my friend Mark was coming over and Em was going to play with us, so we played a 3-player game and I think it went perfect. By perfect, I don't mean that the game is perfect. There's a few tweaks that I'm going to make based on last night's playtest, but by perfect, I mean that we played the game all the way through. It was engaging. There were interesting decisions. And the most important part is after the game was over, we sat around and talked about it. I've been in quite a few awkward playtest sessions where after the playtest, players just kind of go, oh, that was okay. I don't really have any thoughts. And that's kind of like, that's a code word for, So the fact that we sat around and talked about it and thought up a few things was a very good sign. It was a very good sign that everybody was engaged and interested. And the interesting part was I made accidental changes last night that I think make the game better. So because I hadn't touched it in like 3 weeks or a month, I'd kind of forgotten the changes that I made to the game, and so I quickly kind of went through the last version of the rules, and the last version of the rules was before I made a whole bunch of extra changes, so those rules were already outdated, so I just kind of skimmed them, and when I did that, I skipped a bunch of things. And I'm not really going to try to explain everything, but to give you an idea of how this works, there's a board with a bunch of projects. So these are projects. I know it looks like a route map, it basically is, but these are projects, and you're going to put workers on these projects, and any number of players can put workers on one project, right? So this can have 4 workers, 4 crew, so it can be, all 4 of us or whatever if we're playing a 4-player game. The way that you gain benefit over the other players on these routes where you're sharing infrastructure is there's bosses. So you can put a boss there, and that gives you extra bonuses. That gives you scoring bonuses. It also gives you extra stuff each turn. And in the original rules, there was a whole bunch of restrictions for how those bosses get played. They had to be played on a project that had multiple people on it. They had to be, you could put any number of them under one crew member. There was a whole bunch of these little fringe rules, and I completely forgot that last night. And I'm going to leave it all out because I don't think it's necessary. I think that by me saying there's bonuses for having these guys on a route or on a project that has other players' crew, and I just leave it at that, it's up to you to decide where you're going to put these. Like, why shouldn't you be able to put them on your own project? And Em pointed out a very good instance. There's little projects down here that have 2 spaces. If she were to fill that up and didn't put project bosses there because she couldn't, then somebody could replace her. There's a replacement mechanic. So somebody could kick her off of that and she would lose her spot. And that would suck. And I was like, yeah, that's a good point. So why don't I allow it? And taking that kind of thing out of the rules, there was at least 2 instances that I can remember because I rewrote the rules that I made a mistake playing last night, and I'm going to leave it because it cleans it up. It makes it much more intuitive. If I can remove the placement restrictions, the only restriction now is each space can only hold 1 boss. Other than that, you can put it wherever you want. That just makes it so much cleaner to try to explain instead of having all these little fringe rules, because anytime there's a fringe rule that's just in a rule book somewhere and somebody has to read it, it gets really confusing. So, I don't have placement rules written on the board. I don't think I'm going to put them on the board either on the new version of the board. I'm going to order a new version. It's much bigger, and it has this extra stuff, which I'll talk about in a second. The other thing was I added this extra stuff because in the original game, you were just putting stuff on the board, which got you more cards, and more cards allowed you to put more stuff on the board, and the game snowballed until it was over. And it felt like there wasn't really much to do, right? There weren't alternate paths to victory. And so I added a bunch of bonus scoring mechanisms that you can unlock. You have to pay to unlock these, and they give you bonuses for doing other things besides just building. And so it gives you the ability to say, all right, well, building's not working for me, or completing projects isn't working for me. I'll try to do one of these, I'll pay for it, and try to get points. And the original intention was that each player could only be on these once. So up here, up to 4 people could be there, but that was it. And in playtesting last night, one of the other players was having an issue building because he was kind of isolated on his own side of the board. And he decided to take one of these twice. And I thought about it for a second, and I was like, you know what? Why not? Like, that's fine. Because taking these means you're losing your crew members that you can't put on the board. So they're very restrictive, and you have to dump a bunch of cards to take them, and they get progressively more expensive as you get on the line. And I realized that that just opened up an entire different way for him to play the game. He wasn't able to participate in the in the shuffling of crew around the board and in building out a great network, but he was able to participate through this scoring mechanism, and it really helped. And he actually ended up winning. And I think that was a really cool development. So the fun part about playtests like that is I wasn't really expecting to tweak rules based on the playtest. I was looking to tweak these numbers. I was looking to see, is any of this broken? Is any of this out of whack? And one of them is. I'm going to increase the points for one of them because I feel like it didn't give quite enough points. But for the rest, I think it went great. I think that all of these paid pretty well. So overall, I think the test went awesome. I'm going to adjust the size of the decks. There's 4 decks in this game, and they ran out probably on average 2 times a piece. Some of them I think ran out 3 times each, and I would rather that be like 1 reshuffle per deck. So I'm going to increase the size of the deck, which shouldn't affect anything. I added a couple of extra little scoring ticks to here and there because I felt like the building of the projects, the expanding your project influence, your project empire, I guess, was probably the weakest scoring part of the game. Like, it didn't get you a whole lot. It gets you the cards that you then use to do the rest of the things, but I felt like it should give you just a couple more extra little points. So I'm adding a couple extra little scoring points here and there, and I'm adding an additional end game trigger because I feel like if players ignore the original end game trigger, which was when we run out of bosses. So when all the bosses run out, the game ends. If players kind of ignore that and go for these scoring bonuses instead, it can become a little bit, the points would be huge, right? And so I'm going to place an in-game scoring bonus on the number of these that are taken, or an in-game trigger, I should say. So I'm super happy. I didn't lose sleep because, honestly, there was only a few tiny changes. 1 index card was all of the changes that I noted, and I'm ready, I think, very, very soon to kind of finalize the layout of things. There's a couple of things I need to tweak on the player boards. This is getting added to the big board, so I need to order the big board. Need to tweak this a little bit and recreate these. And I'm ready to play it with the big guys at game night and see if they can break it. Em has been asking that. She's like, I want to play again, I want to play again. And I'm like, okay, we'll play it again. Like, I think she really enjoyed herself. So this is close, and today I sat and thought about it, and I think that it is, as it currently sits even, I would be willing to pitch this at conventions. And so I think I'm going to try this year. I think I'm going to try to do some pitches this year. I think I'm going to take this, and I think I'm going to take Hedeby, and I'm going to attempt to find them a home. It's been a very, very, very long time since I've pitched to a publisher. So if you know any publishers that are looking for kind of Euro route building games, or kind of roll and buy engine building games, let me know, because I don't really know who to contact at this point. I have some friends that I can go to, but I don't know who's the best fit. Yeah, super awesome. I'm excited to have this wrapped up. Thank you for being here as always. Thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing, being amazing friends and wonderful people. I really appreciate you. And I'll see you again Monday. Today's word you should know to sound smart is Gustatory, it's an adjective meaning of the sense of taste. Food has it over sex for variety. Hedonistically, gustatory possibilities are much broader than copulatory ones. Joseph Epstein, an American author and critic. Gustatory, Gustatory. Also, not related to that, related to this. If I put this on the Game Crafter as a purchasable prototype, would you be willing to purchase it and play test it for me? It would probably end up being somewhere in the $40 range. Let me know.